Good evening, Steeler fans, and welcome to Wednesday night right here on Behind the Steel Curtain Radio. Since it's Wednesday night, it's time to turn our attention to the Steelers' upcoming game against the Baltimore Ravens. That's what we do here on Know Your Enemy. I'm your host, Geoffrey Benedict. Here with me, filling in for Shannon White, our very own Tyler Huntley, Bryan Anthony Davis. How you doing, Bryan?
Really good. I'm not nearly as fast as Tyler Huntley, but maybe a little bit faster than Shannon. I think if we did do a 40-yard dash, I may win that. But no, I'm just so glad to be. This is one of my favorite shows. This was the brainchild of me. You guys just made it good, just years ago. And so I did an article called Know Your Enemy. So I just love what you do with the show. And I'm so glad to be here and look at the guest we have tonight, man. This is fantastic. And it's Ravens week.
And speaking of our guest here to tell us all the secrets the Baltimore Ravens have to offer, former Raven, Daniel Wilcox. Daniel Wilcox, welcome to the show.
Geoff, Bryan, thank you guys for having me on, man. I really appreciate it. I'm excited, man. I'm excited to talk about, Ravens and Steelers football. It's always the hypest game of the year every year.
Earlier this year, when we were talking about the Saints, we had Terrence Cooper on here. We got to find out he was on that 2018, played in that AFC Championship game. Dan, you are our second guest who played in the 2008 AFC Championship game. Obviously, we Steelers fans love talking about that. I never get tired of thinking and talking about that game. I understand if you don't want to dwell on it, but I want to thank you for coming here, talking to us Steeler fans, even with the history of this rivalry and how much you probably don't like the sight of our jerseys. And for example, my little poster in the background there.
It's a nice poster. I saw it as soon as I came on, Geoff. It's okay. You can rub it in as much as you want. There's nothing you guys have that you guys didn't earn. I can tell you that much now. Pittsburgh, I got a lot of respect for that team. I grew up, a Pittsburgh Steelers fan a little bit. I used to like Mean Joe Green, those commercials they used to have with, I think, was it the Coca-Cola commercials they used to have? You give a kid a Coke? Yep. Yeah, I used to love those commercials as a kid growing up. It made me really want to be a football player. Getting a chance to play in Pittsburgh at Heinz Field was a phenomenal opportunity for me. I played 5 years in Baltimore and had to go to Pittsburgh every year for 5 years. And that AFC Championship actually was my last game. I retired after that game.
Really?
I got banged up the year before, and I came back and played that season. And I remember being on crutches for almost a year. I missed almost the whole season the year before. Came back that season and actually played my first game. My first week of practice was the first week of the season. I missed all the preseason, all the training camp, all of that stuff. And then came back and played every single game that season. I called a touchdown that game. I want to say against Palomalu in that game. We had a great game that game, but you guys just played much better than we did. And y'all had the Raven killer, my ex-teammate that played with me in New York. Y'all has James Farrier, right? Potsy, aka Potsy, my dog.
Love Potsy.
Yeah. Then my other ex-teammates, James Harrison, the Raven killer. James Harrison played with me over in NFL Europe and Germany. We was on the same team together over there.
And Ryan
Fire, yep. So James, man, for some reason, everybody know the story. He was in Baltimore when he got allocated over to Germany. I was a free agent over there. I came back. The Ravens signed me. They let James go to Pittsburgh because they had too many freaking linebackers at the time. And James was like low man on the totem pole. He got hurt actually in Germany, so had to come back early. Didn't get a chance to finish the season. Only played like 3 games, I think, before he got hurt and came home. And then James went over to Pittsburgh, and he had like this vendetta against Baltimore, man, like every freaking game. I hated practicing against him every day because he was so freakishly strong for any human being in this world. And me being an undersized tight end, me having to line up in front of him, he's on the edge guy, outside backer type. He would literally forklift me sometimes and just say, "Move out the way, Wilcox. I'm going to get your quarterback." And it was, it had some embarrassing moments against James, man. But he was just unbelievable when the game was on the line and when it counted the most. He just did some phenomenal things. I think he worked his way all the way to a Hall of Fame caliber player. Love James Harrison. Huge fan.
He's actually in the semifinals right now. So it could be a possibility first year on the ballot. Maybe you might have to wait for a while, but I'm glad you brought up Deebo that's one of my
Yeah.
all-time favorites, and I had a chance to meet him a few times years ago, and just a blast. But do you know how he got his start basically in Pittsburgh? What happened?
No, what happened?
So William Green and Joey Porter went at it in Cleveland in a preseason game, and they threw punches. They both got ejected.
I remember that.
James had like I think he had a sack and a forced fumble, and the rest was history. He had a spot.
Yeah, that's exactly how people get forgotten about. Joey Porter was a nuisance too for you guys as well. I remember him playing him early when I first got to Baltimore in 2004. He was always a problem too. So when James came and took over, he was more of a problem than Joey Porter was. So I mean, that's how good James really is, man. And you can't take anything away from James, aka Deebo. That was one of the names we gave him over in Germany, by the way, the Deebo name. You know, he used to walk around to my, hey, what you got on my 40, homie? You know, repeat. He used to be acting like Deebo from the movie Friday with Chris Tucker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he used to come over there all the time talking just like Deebo, man. He sounds just like him, look like him sometimes when he make that crazy face. And, you know, he's just a phenomenal guy, man. I can't say enough good things about James Harrison.
That is amazing for you to have connections with James Farrior, James Harrison. That's really good stuff. Have you ever been part of a rivalry that is even anything like Ravens Steelers? Is there anything like that? Because I know people who have been in it always say there's nothing like it, but is it really that different from every other game?
Yeah, man. You know going into that game, Geoff, that you're going to come out with some kind of injury. You know, I can remember 2 games that year in 2008. The opening kickoff, somebody got taken out, off the field on the stretcher. The opening kickoff. Yeah. You know, I know it was one time it was one of our guys, Haruki Nakamura, our safety we had picked up. I think Haruki played at either Cincinnati or Notre Dame. I can't remember. We brought in 2 safeties that year. Zibikowski. I think Zibikowski was a Notre Dame guy, and Haruki was from Cincinnati. He came down on kickoff, on the opening kickoff return. One of your guys was coming down. I think it was at the 5 spot. The guy that he hit was his college roommate. He played for Pittsburgh and knocked him clean out. They had to come get him off the field on the stretcher. And then there was another game we played, and I think it was in Baltimore, and Pittsburgh did it to us. They took one of our guys out. It was a crackback blindside block. The guy never saw him coming, knocked him clean out, had to take our kid off the field on the stretcher. The opening play, like that's it. You had to have a tone setter in that game. You had to let the other team know that it was going to be a long day for them. Ed Reed got hurt Pittsburgh-Baltimore game. Hines Ward hurt Ed Reed, and Ed Reed was never the same after that. He played his last 5 or 6 or 7 seasons, you know, with an injured neck due to a hit that he took from Hines Ward in one of the games we played in Pittsburgh. You know, and it was one of the most bloodiest, you know, bruising games, most physical games you was going to play every year. And I still compare every game to those games against Pittsburgh's. Anytime I see anybody beat up on the Baltimore Ravens, I said they came out and they thugged us out like they was Pittsburgh. You know, I compare it to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
You know, because that was the only team that I felt like really had the kind of stigma that we had, you know, in Baltimore. You know, in comparison to Steel City, Charm City, it's kind of like it's a huge comparison in those 2 cities. You know, got a little grit to it, a little griminess to it, still got a little classiness to it. You know, they both on the water. It's something about those 2 cities and those 2 teams. You feel like both teams is the black sheep of the league. You know, we had a game, and I think they threw more penalties on us than any team in the history of the NFL. Like, it's like, come on, ref. Who gonna get that many penalties in the NFL? Everybody is a pro here. It's no way we got freaking 20-some penalties in one game and broke an NFL record. It's because we're the Baltimore Ravens. You know, Pittsburgh is the only other team in the league that I think will possibly have a game like that. You know, where everybody on the team is some kind of character, and they're gonna give you some kind of crazy energy. You know, your James Harrisons, your James Farriors, you know, your Troy Polamalu's who's quiet but got hair all the way down to his ankles. You know what I'm saying? It's so much crazy stuff going on, man. Your Hines Wards was off the chain back then. Your Ben Roethlisberger was party animal all over the place, and then come and beat you at the end of the game. He gonna find a way to come back and drag 2 or 3 guys to the ground while he's throwing the ball 30, 40 yards downfield for a touchdown. The Santonio Holmes catch against us in the corner of the end zone. Come on, man. Like you can't make this stuff up, man. It was a phenomenal experience, man, playing against you guys every year, twice a year, and we knew that game was going to be a bruiser every single time.
Well, you knew it was going to be a bruiser, but there's something here in Pittsburgh, and I think the same in Baltimore with fans, because like I told you before, I live in Maryland, and our editors, Geoff and Dave, they live in Maryland too.
Hey, and, Geoff. Hey, Dave.
Yeah. Oh, they'll love that. But so basically, what I'm trying to say is the fans kind of think that there's a hatred between these two teams.
Yeah.
But there's not a hatred. There's more of a respect, right?
I think it's a little bit of both. Brian, if you really had to sit down and really think about it, there's a level of respect given for both teams because you got to come bring your A game every time you play each other. So that gives you respect right off rip. But at the same time, you're trying to figure out how you can really eliminate this other team. You're trying to annihilate the other team. You're trying to really beat them by any means necessary, and it's a rivalry. It's a true rivalry. It's not like any other game I've played in. And mad respect to Pittsburgh. We knew we was going to see a million terrible towels, worst towel in the world, but we knew we was going to see a million of them. We knew people was going to throw stuff at the bus, moon us, all kind of crazy stuff as we come in the stadium or leave the stadium. And we know, see what I'm saying? Like, Brian, you don't have to do that. Everybody know what that stupid towel looks like. You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
But, it was going to be one of those games like week in and week out that you was never going to forget. You're never going to forget this game. You got playmakers on both sides of the ball. The defense is always going to be in the top 5 in the league every single year. So you was finna go ahead and come out of this game with a headache.
Let me ask you one more question before we move on.
Okay.
Is it true, this is legend in Pittsburgh, that Joey Porter tried to fight the entire Baltimore bus?
I don't know if he tried to fight the entire Baltimore bus. I mean, you got to think about it. We got some pretty gangster guys in our team too. I don't think Joey Porter want to run up on our bus, but Joey Porter did have a mouth on him, man. I mean, he talked more crap than anybody I know, But now I remember him doing something. He hurt Todd Heat my first year in Baltimore in 2004. We was at Baltimore. I think it was my first game. We was at home. It might have been the first game of the year, and I remember Todd got hurt like the play prior. And he literally limped to the line of scrimmage because he was hurt. And I think Joey wasn't 100% sure if he was hurt or if he was just faking it or something. And Joey came off the ball, fired off on. And he literally was limping to the line of scrimmage just to get set. I'm not sure if he was spiking the ball, if he was going to run a play. But Todd they should have called a timeout and got Todd off the field. He literally limped up to the line. Joey Porter came off, fired off on and hit him. And the whole team ran up on Joey like, man, what the heck you doing? Back up. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Ty's our guy, So, I mean, it was definitely some bad blood there, along the way. And I think when Joey got interviewed after that game, he was like, I wasn't sure if he was hurt, if he was just playing or whatever, and it's that type of league. You never know. You absolutely never know, especially Pittsburgh, Baltimore. You never know if somebody faking hurt just to run right by you or if they really hurt for real. So, you got to be on your P's and Q's at all times.
Moving on from all of this fun talk to the actual game coming up this week.
Okay.
And this current iteration of the Ravens-Steelers rivalry. One of the most interesting storylines for me every year with this matchup is how few games Lamar Jackson has actually played against the Steelers.
Yeah.
Since he's become a starter, he's missed, I think, 5 games, 3 of them against the Steelers. This is going to be his 6th game since he took over, because his first start in 2018 was right after the Steelers game, right after the second Steelers game. They were like, okay, now you can start. We don't want you playing the Steelers as a rookie. And then since then, this is going to be the 6th matchup here. And he's missed, or 7th, 8th matchup, something like that. And he's missed most of them. He's 1-2 against the Steelers. And this is going to be his 7th game after he became a starter. They're going to play the Steelers. It's crazy to me because 2 of those seasons, he missed 1 game, and it was a game against the Steelers, and that's it. And it wasn't even like the one was the COVID game, like it wasn't even an injury.
Right.
It's crazy to me that they've missed that kind of situation. And I mean, Tyler Huntley, this is his 2nd game against us. He's going to be 1 game behind Lamar Jackson in starts against the Pittsburgh Steelers for the Baltimore Ravens.
That's crazy.
It's crazy to me that we really haven't seen him. And so I think Pittsburgh, there's a lot of disrespect for Lamar Jackson and what a great player he is because we haven't seen him.
Right.
And like the one game he beat the Steelers was with Rudolph and Hodges playing, and then Ben Roethlisberger got the best of him the 2 times they faced off. And I don't think there really is a respect for what Lamar Jackson is here in Pittsburgh. How do you view Lamar Jackson?
I think Lamar is probably one of the most dynamic guys in the NFL, just period. Just players, QBs, at any position. I think he's one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, so much so that he did get the MVP his first year starting. And it shows that the whole league respected what he does. I think he's a rare talent. He's been doing this for a long time. You can go all the way back to high school film, and he was doing the same thing in high school. If you go back to Little League, he was doing the same thing in Little League. I think he's a very unique, talented guy. Playing against the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're going to go against one of the top defenses in the league every single year. And I don't know if it's a blessing that he doesn't play against Pittsburgh, or is it a blessing that he does play against Pittsburgh? I don't know, but I know he's a kind of quarterback that I would have loved to play with. He extend plays. He gives me a little bit more time to get open. I know I get a chance to get more balls downfield if I just run. If I make a separation, he could drop a dime in there at any moment, and he loves throwing the ball to us, the tight ends. Why wouldn't I love to play with this guy, right? And he's the type of quarterback that gives you hope. Like the one year we had Steve McNair in Baltimore, we had hope that year. We felt like could nobody stop us, could nobody beat us. We was going to have a chance to win every game because we got one of the top defenses in the world, which was always in the top 2 or 3 or 4. And then you got one of the best quarterbacks that gives you this hope that you're going to have a chance to win. And that's what Pittsburgh has always had. They always knew that Ben Roethlisberger was going to give them an opportunity at the end of the game to pull this thing off if they just played great defense. And that's what Baltimore has always stood on, great defense, just like Pittsburgh. Now they finally got an offense to kind of match that defense, and the defense is kind of acting kind of weary. So I think Lamar not playing is a huge disadvantage to Pittsburgh fans, to kind of see such a dynamic player play the game. And if he's lost 2 out of the 3 that he's played, he knows the same thing that you guys know. He's going to be trying to get back to get that thing to 2-2 and get it to 3-2 and get it to 4-2 so that he starts winning those battles. He's a competitor, man. He really loves to compete. You don't win a Heisman Trophy and the league MVP, if you're not a competitor. He wants to be really, really good. And unfortunately, he had a injury he suffered in practice last week, and then kind of re-injured it again in the game. And it's Huntley's turn to go shine. When you got somebody as dynamic as Huntley backing you up, I mean, go ahead, Huntley. Be a Pittsburgh killer this week and see if you can pull this thing off for us. So I mean, he's a gifted guy. I think it's a disadvantage to any fan that doesn't get a chance to see Lamar Jackson play live.
There's a lot of people in Pittsburgh that are actually just as worried about Ty Huntley because we feel like there's not that much of a drop off. But I do want to drop something in real quick just to clarify that stat about Lamar not playing. If you go back to 19, the final game was not an injury situation. It was Robert. Yeah. Everything was wrapped up. Yeah. RG3 was playing at QB for them. So I feel like we just missed out on him there as well, just because it was a sit and rest for the playoff situation.
Yeah, I remember that situation too. And then they had a first round bye and they lost the second round.
Tennessee, right? Yeah,
it was crazy. Tennessee blew them out, but beat them up pretty bad. That was the famous play with Derrick Henry stiff arm our safety. Who's now retired from that stiff arm.
It was Earl, wasn't it? It was Thomas.
Earl Thomas,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was Earl Thomas.
Boy, I feel like we could go for 7 hours because I have so many questions. You say Earl, and now I've got 18 more questions. But let's go back to Ty Huntley though. I mean,
he's phenomenal.
Really, there's not that much of a drop off.
I think there is. So when you look at Tyler and you look at Lamar, you see both of them have very similar traits and very similar qualities, right? And it's not like it's like freaking Joe Montana and Dan Marino, right? So you got 2 very dynamic guys that could run. It's like having Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick, kind of looking at having 2 guys that could do kind of the same things back there at the in the backfield at the helm. And I think that's taking your hats off to the Baltimore Ravens scouting department. I think those guys just do a phenomenal job. They knew they had Greg Roman. They knew he was going to put in that RPO style offense. They went and got 2 quarterbacks that could run the RPO to perfection. And Lamar Jackson is phenomenal doing it. Tyler Huntley is phenomenal at doing it. But it's a very different mystique back there when Lamar number 8 is back there versus when number 2 is back there. Now, keep in mind, number 2 could hurt you just as much as number 8 can. They both are Florida guys. They both grew up playing against each other. They've been knowing each other since they was kids. You know, they've been playing against each other since they was kids. And I think Huntley is just a little shorter than Lamar, but plays very, he's a very dynamic player as well. I think Lamar being back there, though, there's a nail-biting scenario that happens for every defense. Like, we got to play Lamar Jackson this week, bro. We got to be on our P's and Q's. They know they can't let contain get outside. They know they can't let them go up the middle, so they know they're going to have to force this very, very cute pocket to try to contain this guy and keep him inside that pocket and try to grab jerseys, ankles, shoestrings, socks, underwear, anything they can grab to get this guy down. And he's that dynamic. And I think there's a level of understanding we can't let this guy beat us, right? And when you have Huntley back there, you're like, whew, thank God it's not Lamar, but we still got to worry about this kid, that type of thing. So I think Huntley could definitely beat Pittsburgh. I think the Ravens can, if they come in and they play their best game. We have not been playing our best game, so I'm biting my nails going into this game just like I was the last one and the one before this. And I really think that Pittsburgh is not rolling on all cylinders like they have been in the past. Losing Ben Roethlisberger shows you exactly how important the quarterback position is. You forget that having somebody so good that play that spot for you for so long, that was a Pro Bowl caliber player every year, you forget how important that position is because you've been spoiled for so long having somebody like Ben back there. Now he leaves and all of a sudden everything looks like it's unraveling and you're like, crap, where do you go from here? And it's a very important position to have. Very important position to have.
Yeah, it's been a hard transition here in Pittsburgh because a lot of people look at Kenny Pickett, some of his struggles he was having, and be like, he's terrible.
Yeah,
and you're like, no, he's not terrible. And they're like, no, he's not good. And it was like, yeah, he's not Ben. He's not Ben, but that's okay. It's okay to be not Ben Roethlisberger. It's 18 years. We had people this year being like, I've been a Steelers fan since I was like 6. I'm 24 now, and I've never had another quarterback.
Right.
Crazy stuff like that. Like it's just amazing how long that's been.
I don't feel sorry for you guys because my first 3 years I had Kyle Bowler in Baltimore. Y'all just kicked our butts and y'all didn't care about our quarterback at all. So once we got somebody that was worthy back there, your Flaccos, your McNairs, all of a sudden we can compete for real. Like, what's up? You know what I'm saying?
You can actually do something.
Right. So when you got Kyle Bowler back there, just like, Pickett is not bad. Kyle Bowler wasn't bad. When you look at his statistics and all his measurables, this guy was definitely a pro quarterback. He got an arm that can make every throw on the field. He's dynamic. He can scramble. He can run. He can move around a little bit. He's not a stiff, But at the end of the day, if you're not special, you can't beat the great teams, man. You can't.
I wanted to ask you because the other half, there's 2 players on Baltimore's offense this year that have kind of been healthy and carrying the load, and that's Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. As a tight end, man, what is up with Mark Andrews? That guy is just like phenomenal. Is he? Where would you rank him among tight ends? Do you think this guy's like a Hall of Famer? Like, what are your thoughts on Mark Andrews?
He's already Hall of Famer in my book. I mean, he's already doing things that better than what Todd Heap did. And when I came in, I had a chance to do an internship with the Ravens about 3 or 4 years ago. I was at Georgia State and I was director of recruiting, player personnel, and NFL liaison at Georgia State University. And then I left there and I went and did an internship in the player personnel department in Baltimore. And I got a chance to evaluate Mark Andrews as a second-year player, Lamar Jackson as a second-year player. And I got a chance to look at Mark Andrews verbatim every single day in practice. Of course, they gave me the tight ends, so I had to evaluate the tight ends every day. And when I was watching Mark Andrews, the thing that stood out to me more than anything, when I came in year 1 out of Appalachian State, I was probably down here, mental capacity of what I needed to do. Physically, I was way up here. I was faster than guys, twitchier than guys, quicker than guys, more athletic than guys. They could play me in multiple positions, but mental part of the game, I was probably here. Mark Andrews came in here on a mental part of the game. And when I say that, is that football is really geometry. It's all about angles. It's all about positioning yourself and understanding the dynamics of the coverages, the cover zeros, the ones, the twos, the threes, the cover fours, the zones versus the mans, how to sit down versus zone, runaway versus man, and then how to push defenders to make them move from the spot where they're trying to sit in, and then how to pull defenders to you when you want them to come to you, and then when to break off, how to get their hips turned. As soon as they hip turn, break down and get out of your break, and now you open. He has the nuances already coming in as a rookie that most of us didn't develop until we was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years into the league. And that's what makes him so dynamic. He's so sharp mentally. He came into the game years ahead of the curve of where I was when I came in as a rookie. And I was really, really, really impressed with that. I'm like, he knows how to run at the linebacker to make him sit still. And it's such a small thing, right? You'll think if I run right at him, he'll sit still. If you run right at him, he'll move inside. If you run at his outside shoulder, the shoulder closest to you, then he can't go nowhere because that shoulder holds him where he is. If he never want to overrun me. If he's playing inside of me, right, he's trying to take away my inside. So if I run right at the middle of him, he scoots inside more. If I run at his outside shoulder, he sits still. He doesn't move. He's like a statue. If I run straight up the field, he comes to me like a magnet because as long as he keeps inside contained, that's all that matters. And he understood that coming into the league. And when you see him push and move guys and set guys up and bait guys on routes so that he just comes open like magically, you're like, how is this guy so wide open? He understands the geometry of the game, the angles of the game, and it's extremely impressive.
Well, that's absolutely amazing. I've never heard geometry of the game, and now I'm going to think about that all the time. That's fantastic. And I mean,
thank you, bro.
Coming from another tight end. Yeah, you can pat both, man. So let me ask you about the rest of the pass catchers, because when it comes to Andrews, you're right. I mean, he's
elite.
We view him as top 2. I mean, I go back and forth, Kelce Andrews, because I think those two are the very best, and I don't want to pick a winner between the two.
I think I would pick Kelce over this is the only reason I would pick Kelce over Mark is because of the blocking aspect of Kelce is phenomenal, right? So he has the exact same intangibles that Mark has. He has the phenomenal hands, catches everything that touches his hand, but he adds that blocking aspect. It's not just like Mark Andrew blocks too, and he does a great job of blocking, but Kelce dominates in the blocking part, and he takes pride in that. And that's something I had to learn. That's something I had to buy into. It wasn't something I wanted to do, so I would give Kelce 1, give Mark 2.
Now, it's obvious that the Steelers are going to view him as a number 1 wide receiver, even though he's a tight end, because they feel like he is the number 1 option as far as a pass catcher. Then it drops off a little bit, but who should we be concerned about? Is it Duvernay? Is he the number 1 wide receiver? If you
it's supposed to be Bateman.
Andrews away?
It's supposed to be Bateman, Brian. Honestly, it's supposed to be Rashad Bateman. But I'm really impressed with Duvernay myself. Like, the more I watch him play, the more dynamic he is. And he's like Hines Ward. He's like, every time you give him the ball, something good happens, right? It's like, how is this dude just doing what he's doing? Like, he's not that much faster than Duvernay is fast. But when you watch Hines, he wasn't that dynamic of he didn't seem like he was that dynamic of an athlete. You looked at his body type, he got bigger and bulkier as the years went on, but he was just a really smart football player. And when he touched the ball, he understood the angles of the game. He knew how to stop and go and change direction and push and move you so he can get open. And he understood what to do. He could shut it down so quick and then get back to full speed so fast. That made him a really good player, man. And Duvernay is such a dynamic player. He brings a deep threat that you need, as a quarterback. He has the aggressiveness to run the ball out of the backfield, and he can take the jet sweeps and turn them into something else. And he can do reverses. And he could be your double move guy as well. He has a little twitchiness and a little change of direction in him that's surprising and it's pleasing because he's a return guy, right? So usually when you see return guys, they usually have a little bit more stop and go, and they got better hips than a lot of the other receivers. And I think he's a guy that you just try to get the ball to him as much as possible any way you can and kind of capitalize off his athletic ability, and I think Bateman has that deep threat ability too. He has that long ball speed. He's a tall, longer guy, and he can make you miss. He can stop and go as well. He kind of has a little bit of that Hollywood Brown in him, and I think he could be a pretty dynamic guy. His issue is just trying to stay healthy this year. So just because, Duvernay has been more healthier than Bateman, I'll roll with Duvernay.
Two things real quick about the receiving position. And you mentioned Hines Ward. A lot of people forget Hines Ward had that 100-yard touchdown return against the seemingly Baltimore team in the Batman movie.
Brian,
so remember,
nobody cares about that.
It was blowing up. You saw the movie. The stadium was blowing up, and Hines Ward went all the way.
Yeah, the world was collapsing against. All right, the world was falling apart. The field was holes and stuff in the field.
Hines Ward still did it.
Yeah, man. Nobody cares, Brian.
Now, the other thing you mentioned, Hollywood Brown. As a Steeler fan, I could. One of the greatest trades I ever saw was him going to Arizona because that guy tears up Pittsburgh like crazy. So that to me is addition for the Steelers by subtraction for the Ravens not having him in there.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think losing Hollywood was, anytime you have somebody that's great friends with the quarterback, it's like Brady losing Gronkowski or losing Wes Welker or Julian Edelman. It's not a good look. You got to try to figure out a way to keep a guy like him. And I understood where Hollywood was coming from. He wanted to be the guy. He wanted to be the guy that you depended on to win, not a guy that was a part of the win. And that comes with a little bit of selfishness, a little bit of me or whatever. And they say there ain't no I in team, but like Kobe said, there is a me in team, ME, So I'm not mad at Hollywood, man, for trying to, better himself and put himself in a better situation and to put himself in a situation where he played with his college quarterback again, who was also a good friend of his. And it kind of, he wanted to kind of make himself an elite receiver. And I hope he gets the opportunity to do that in Arizona, and it does that helps our conference out a lot. Pittsburgh don't have to see Hollywood now, Cincinnati don't have to see him. Cleveland doesn't have to see him, and Baltimore we don't get a chance to use him like we used to. So I'm wishing Hollywood all the love and blessings and success he can get out in Arizona. And I hope he plays extremely well for them.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break here. We're a little past our normal mark, but we're going to take a commercial break and we'll be right back. If you're listening to us, watching us live, we're just going to sit around for a minute. If you're on the podcast, stay tuned and we will be right back. All right. Welcome back here. We're talking here with Daniel Wilcox about the Baltimore Ravens game upcoming. I want to switch real quick to the defense.
Okay.
And I want to talk about a linebacker that in Patrick Queen, who has really come on and become really a top tier linebacker, in my opinion, who can cover pretty much anyone and is flying all over the field, making plays everywhere. What's your thoughts on Patrick Queen? How important is he to this team, and how good of a player is he?
I think he's a really good player. I think he's going to be even better now that we brought in Roquan Smith. I think competition is really important, no matter what. I think he was the only guy there in the middle of the field for a while that was a factor. Now the Ravens linebackers are starting to actually show up a little bit more and starting to make more plays. I think the Roquan Smith move was a super smart move by, Eric DeCosta, the GM, bringing a guy like him in, who's the league leading tackler at the time, which will push somebody like McQueen to play even better. I can remember my rookie year in the league, Geoff. I was with the New York Jets, and we played the Baltimore Ravens, the first home game in New York. And the thing that impressed me the most about the Ravens at the time was Ray Lewis, was a young Ray Lewis. And I think I remember the first 10 to 15 tackles he made. It didn't matter if it was up the middle, if it was sideline to sideline, if it was 10 yards down the field. He was on every freaking tackle. And I was like, who the freak is this dude? And to me, that's what middle linebackers are. Growing up as a kid, going through high school, through college, your best middle linebackers are on every single tackle. And that's what Patrick McQueen has to do. He has to be the guy that has 25 tackles a game, your Bart Scotts, your Ray Lewis's, your James Farriers, those type of guys where you like, this guy don't care. He's a grinder. He'll get gritty. He'll get dirty. He'll get up and get pissed off. He'll pick the flag up and throw it in the stands. He's an animal, and I think if he can figure out a way to get back to that side of himself, I don't think nobody can stop Patrick Queen.
Daniel, I'm looking at this defense, and now you just mentioned adding Roquan, and you just added Marcus Williams in the offseason. I don't see many holes. I mean, because you've got the Chuck Clarks, you've got these guys, you've got players. Where are the holes on this team? Because I'm not seeing it. I know it's going to be one of those slobber knockers when they take on Pittsburgh, and you take the under in this game.
Brian, you're so kind, man. You're such a nice guy, man. I don't know if it's because you stay in Maryland and you like Pittsburgh that you're being so nice right now, man. But we've given up over like 540 yards in the fourth quarter in 4 games that we lost. Okay, we lost 4 games in the fourth quarter, 500 and sub. Just imagine if there was one game and you played 4 quarters and you gave up 530 plus yards in those 4 quarters, it's the worst game you probably ever played in your life, right? We've lost 4 games in the fourth quarter and given up over 530 some yards in just those 4 quarters in the fourth quarter. That's how bad our defense have played this year. And when you think about Baltimore Ravens or Pittsburgh Steelers defense, that's neither one of our defenses. Hold up, bro. Like, our defense is losing games? Like, nah, that don't happen. We got leagues in the fourth quarter and we're giving up leagues. And I don't understand, what's going on. Early on, I could understand the miscommunications, the Miami game, a couple of games early in the year. I could understand the miscommunications. You got a new DC. It's not like Mike McDonald is unfamiliar with Baltimore. He was here for a long time. When I was doing my internship, he was the linebackers coach at the time, and he's a phenomenal guy. The players really respect him and love him a lot. He left to go to Michigan to be the DC in Michigan one season, came right back, got the DC job, in Baltimore the year after having a great, phenomenal year in Michigan. Even brought one of his players with him from Michigan, and he got here, and I think there was a little bit of adjustment that needed to be happening the first half of the season. And I thought we was past it. And then 2 weeks ago, we had that horrible game. We just dropped the ball too many daggone times. I don't know what it is, but I just feel like our defense, Williams was a great addition. Hamilton was a great addition. Your 2 corners, phenomenal. I just think we got 2 of the best corners in the league. You got 2 of the best safeties in the league. Williams got hurt early in the year. He was causing all type of problems in the back end. We was causing fumbles, getting interceptions with him. Just played phenomenal. Adding Roquan Smith, having, McQueen. You just got Bowser back. We had so many guys coming off IR from last season. We still ain't fully recovered. We're finally getting to the point now, week 14, where we're starting to look like a healthy team. All our running backs was out last year. It's crazy. It was just a bad year. Calais Campbell, everybody got banged up and beat up, but we starting to look like a team that can be a real contender. And 2 weeks ago, I was saying we was the best 7-3 team in the league. I really felt that. I really believe that. Like, we are best 7-3 teams in the league, but for some reason, something's not clicking. I don't know what that thing is, Brian. I don't know. From the outside looking in, maybe you and Geoff could figure that out, but from my side, I'm looking at things like, bro, like something got to be wrong, either in the locker room or in the coaching office or something. Something ain't clicking right. Our defense is dynamic. Our defense is special. Our defense is scary as hell on paper. It's like, I don't want to see Marlon Humphrey and Peters, on the corners, and then Hamilton and Williams back there at the safety, even with Chuck Clark and all those guys, even Stone could play. All those guys can freaking play, and they all had to play last year when everybody got hurt, and then they got hurt too, so it's like, I don't know, man. I think we're one of the most dynamic teams on paper, and we just haven't played like that. I still don't feel like we played a good game all season. We're sitting at 7 or 8 wins right now. And I don't think we've played a good game all season. We haven't played a good game. I feel like Lamar's played good. He hasn't played a great game yet either. When he plays a great game, you can't stop talking about it. And we haven't had that game yet this year. And the defense haven't played a good game all year long. We've won games. We've played really well at times. We've had really good quarters at times, but we have not put together, 4 quarters yet. I can't hear you, Geoff.
Geoff, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. I love hearing you talk like this because I'm looking at statistically over the season, the Ravens are a top 10 defense.
Right.
In this league. But just like here in Pittsburgh, when you'd be like, oh man, our scoring defense is 10th, and people are like, and that's not good enough. Right. You got to finish games. You got to be a defense that wins a game to be something. I love hearing you talk about that and saying, hey, that, what, stats are fine, but you got to close out games.
You got to close them out.
I want to ask you about this because it kind of goes along with that. We've seen Justin Houston, 33 years old, been around for a long time. He's got 9 sacks right now.
Bowling.
Yeah.
Bowling
Jason
out.
Pierre-Paul is hanging around. I was like, wait, is that the same guy? Is that the same Jason Pierre-Paul?
Yeah.
He's still around. Calais Campbell's 36.
Yeah.
Is that a problem for a team to have? I mean, they're guys that are playing really well,
right?
But they are older.
It's not a problem at all. I think when I look at the roster that we have, Houston hasn't played lights out all year. Pierre-Paul was at home on the couch. He was watching TV. He was at home watching movies, Netflixing and chill with his girl. We picked him up off the couch because we had too many injuries over there on the outside linebacker spot. And we needed help bad early in the year. I mean, we just wasn't getting any pressure on the passer at all. And that's unlike a Ravens defense. You've always had a Terrell Suggs, a Jared Johnson, somebody to come off that edge, Matthew Judon that was going to give you some kind of pressure week in and week out that was going to make you be like, all right, I can't sit back here and pat the ball. People are back there eating lunch back there sometimes against us, man. And I just don't understand what's going on. There's something that's not clicking between the DC and the players right now, and maybe the defensive staff and the players, where everybody's not on all cylinders. We're having, mental breakdowns week in and week out. We have busting coverages week in and week out, and then we're just not playing lights out like we should. I don't know if we're playing too soft in the fourth quarter or too safe in the fourth quarter. I know a lot of teams go to revert the quarters and kind of play a prevent type defense where you got all, both corners fall off about 20 yards, both safeties deep about 20 yards, and you try to give everything up underneath and then come up and make the tackle. And that just hasn't worked for us. I feel like we just got to continue to be the aggressive team, that we've always been. We're just not playing the way that we should. I don't think age is a problem, Geoff, at all. I really don't. I feel like that veteran leadership is the leadership you need to go win a Super Bowl. You have to take advantage of the leadership that you have and the veterans that you have on the team. The Calais Campbells, you should want to go win one for a Calais Campbell. He's never had that opportunity to even smell that game. Get him there. Find a way to get him there and watch what he do for you. Ray Lewis last year, he was year 18 when he won his second Super Bowl, and he led you all the way there with that veteran leadership. So I don't really think age is an issue when it comes to playing this game. The biggest issue that age gives you is salary cap. Nobody wants to pay the older guy, $10 million a year when I can go pay this young guy $450,000 a year. So it's like, how can I get three of those 450,000 guys to replace that $10 million guy a year? And that's what most teams do. They get rid of that guy, make some room in the salary cap. They bring in two other guys to replace that one guy, and those two guys' stats combined gives them what they lost with the other guy. And that's the strategy that most teams use, and they've been using it for centuries or how many every years. I don't know. It's crazy, but I don't think age is a problem, Geoff, at all. I really think they got enough veteran leadership where they should be a much better team than what they are right now.
Daniel, you made me feel really good because you mentioned JPP, and then I was getting ready to Netflix and chill on my couch tonight, and then Geoffrey called me to do the show, so I'm like, I'm just like an NFL player, I think.
Absolutely.
So, there you go. Where's my pension? Now, all right. With that being said,
nose guard, bro. Nose guard.
I've got some Syracuse in me. I mean,
you got a little goose in you. You got a little goose. Yeah, R.I.P. Goose.
And we both went to Pitt. How about that? There you go.
Okay.
But
shout out to Pitt.
Yeah, that Goose was something special.
He was.
Let me ask you about the coaches in this game, because as far as I'm concerned, I rail on Harbaugh all the time just because he's not a Steeler coach, because he's the enemy, he's the bad guy, but it seems like right now you've got Super Bowl winning coaches in both cities, and they're both taking a lot of heat from their fans right now, and they're not getting the respect they deserve. Can you speak on that? What do you see when you look at both of these coaches? And I know you've had experience with Coach T back in the Tampa days, so I'm going to ask you about these guys.
Well, both very, very different coaches. They're not the same type of coaches at all. Mike Tomlin, to me, has always been a player's coach, where he kind of understands, our bodies. He understands how hard we work. He knows when to turn you up. He knows when to shut you down. And he's a guy that's very likable by almost every single body in the locker room. And he's a team favorite. Like I don't know anybody that didn't like Mike Tomlin. Maybe Antonio Brown, maybe the only person in the history of the world that didn't like Mike Tomlin. But he's a phenomenal guy. The way he walks in, his presence alone, makes you want to sit up in your seat and prep up. He's a great guy. I like Mike Tomlin. I only played 1 year in Tampa with Mike. And if I was going somewhere right now, he would still say, Wilcox, what's up, man? How you doing? You know, he would still approach me. I think last time I saw him was at a golf tournament or something in Miami. And I have no idea why I was I can't golf, guys. Why I was there, I don't know. I think I was there to drive the caddies or drive the buggies for somebody or something. I don't know. But I suck at golf. But he walked right up to me like he hadn't missed a beat. Mind you, I'm an offensive guy. He's a defensive coach. You know, so he wasn't on my side coaching me. He was on the defensive side trying to tell those guys to stop letting Wilcox run all over the place like he crazy around here, you know. And he still remembered me, you know. Every time we meet, you know, it's like the brotherhood. I think. Oh, you know what? The last time I saw him was at the year I was in Baltimore doing the internship. I went to the combine, NFL combine with the Ravens that year, and I saw MT there, Mike Tomlin there. He's just a phenomenal guy. Harbaugh on the other side, you know, he's a special teams guy, you know. So his coaching, he loves special teams. All his emphasis is going to be on special teams, and he want to make sure that we win the special team battle because that's how you win the game, right? You know, the field position battle people take for granted. You don't understand, like, you know, if you kick the ball off to us and we return it 30 yards, that's three first downs. If we get a kickoff return for 30 yards, that's 3 first downs that your offense don't have to get, right? So, and then that gives you great field position. Now you get the ball on the 45 or the 50-yard line going in. Now your quarterback working with a short field, you know, with a kicker like Tucker, all you need is 20 yards and you got a freaking, you know, you got a field goal. So you got 3 points just like that. So that's how you win the field position battle. Then if I punt it to you, if I don't get the first down, I punt it to you and we already got the ball at the 45 or the 50, I get to ping you inside the 5. So now you got horrible field position. If we get a sack fumble, it's a touchdown. If we get a sack in the end zone, it's a safety, right? So that's how you play the field position game, and you try to win that game through every kicking game throughout the game. You know, call your field goals, make them all, block everybody else's field goals, disrupt them, whatever you got to do to stop them from getting in the field goal range part of the game. So that's always Harbaugh's standpoint. And Harbaugh has a little bit of a mentality where he's really, really, really cool with you today, and then really, really, really don't like you the next day. So you have to figure out which Harbaugh you're going to see sometimes, but he's that guy that always keeps you on your toes, right? Mm-hmm. Because you don't know if you like, hey, coach, you know, and he'd be like, what are you doing? Get ready for practice. You know, he's looking at you crazy, like, get your butt ready for practice. Tie your shoes up. You know what I'm saying? And then the next day he's like, hey, man, how's your kids? You know what I'm saying? How's your kids? How the wife doing? Man, I love that cake she makes. Your wife got a cake that's phenomenal. You know, tell your son, you know, keep it up in school. You know, he's that guy. You know, he's such a weird dynamics of what you're going from left to right with Harbaugh, that he keeps you on your toes and you're always trying to figure out which angle he's going to come at you from. Be prepared for anything and work your butt off, because he's not going to ever press the pause button. It's always play.
All right. That's phenomenal. Great insights here today. Thank you so much, man. We're coming to the end of our show here. So I want to thank you for being on. And before we let you go, Daniel, we always try to get a prediction from our guests. I don't know if you're okay giving us a score. If you can, give us the whole prediction, everything. What do you think is coming up in this game?
I suck at predictions, Geoff. I've been horrible giving these things the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Oh, yeah. We're awful. We have a whole show dedicated to how bad our predictions are.
Brian, Geoff, I'm gonna say this game is gonna be a close game. I haven't said this in weeks. I've been saying the Ravens is gonna score 35, other teams gonna score 14. You know, for weeks now, I haven't been close. But I'm gonna say this is gonna be a really close game, because I just think both teams are not playing extremely well right now. I know Pittsburgh is going to get up to play this game. Mm-hmm. So I feel like it's going to be one of the best games Pittsburgh's played this year. I just feel like that's just how it goes when we play Pittsburgh. If they play like crap, they play like crap all year long. They don't care if they 0-20. They're going to play us like they're the number 1 team in the league. So I'm going to say Pittsburgh is going to score right around 17, 18 points. And then I'm going to say Baltimore is going to win by a margin of 1 or 3. So we're going to be 20-21. You know, somewhere around that 17-18 to 20-21, somewhere around there. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game at all. I think Huntley and Andrews will definitely connect for a touchdown or 2. I think Isaiah likely may play extremely well. He's been phenomenal and kind of like low key, really good for us, you know. And I think Duvernay will do some great things. I love Kenyon Drake. Think he's been playing well. I think 27 is back on the field this week, Dobbins. So I think he's going to give you guys a run for your money, but I think Pittsburgh is just going to play great ball like they always do against the Ravens, and they'll keep this game tight. They'll keep it tough. They'll keep it. It'll be still a hard-nosed game. It's a pride factor that comes in this game, man. And I don't care who you are. If you don't have no pride about yourself, you can't play for either one of these teams. But this is going to be one of those games that you get a chance to pull those pants up, pull those shoulder pads down, scrap that helmet up, zip, and then you put that mouthpiece in, and you're going to look at that guy across from you, and you finna say, I'm finna kick your butt, every single play for 60 reps. And I'm finna represent the Steel City. I'm going to represent the Charm City, and we finna go to work. I'm finna show you what Baltimore is about. I'm finna show you what Pittsburgh is about. And I just think this is going to be a bloody game. It's going to be a really bloody game, about as bloody as it could be right now since we play flag football. But it's going to be as close to we could possibly be. It's going to be as close to a bloody game as you've seen in this new flag league that we're playing.
All right. Wow. I love that. I love that.
Tremendous.
Before we let you go here, let everyone know where they can see more of you, hear more of you, online, everywhere. Tell them where they can find you.
Well, any podcast forum out there, Bleav in the Ravens podcast is me and Bo Smoker on the Bleav Network. And also my IG is Daniel.Wilcox. And then my Twitter is Coach Wilcox, is at Coach Wilcox at Twitter. So, I try to repost everything that we do. So if you guys send me the link, I'm definitely reposting it. You guys are phenomenal. Really enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be way worse because you guys are Pittsburgh fans, but you guys are actually pretty decent guys. You guys are not like some of the people I've met at Pittsburgh, walking around with all this purple, all this yellow and gold stuff all the freaking time, waving terrible towels in your face all the time. I'm talking about you, Brian. But
you catch us at the game, it's a different story, man. This is Wednesday night.
Hey,
by Sunday, it's a different story.
It's a different story. Gotcha.
Our listeners know, and you heard the disclaimer. Don't pee on our couch. You did a great job. We appreciate you.
I appreciate it, guys.
I do have to jump in and say one thing.
Yeah.
Carrie's trying to take my job in the live chat here. She's trying to book you already before the second game for Know Your Enemy.
Hey, Carrie, let's do it.
All right. Hey, Geoff, that just made our job easier.
All right, man.
We don't have to scramble before the game now.
Absolutely, man. Whatever you guys need, man, feel free to reach out, and we'll make it right.
All right. Thank you so much.
No doubt. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you, sir. All right.
No doubt.
All right, Brian. Great guest, great time. I don't know how to follow that.
I tell you what, one of the best guests we've ever had on this show. Except the best guest we've ever had on the show. I absolutely love it. We're definitely going to be begging him to come back. So I definitely, we will be doing that. It's going to be a great game. It's Ravens week. Anything can happen. You throw out the record book, you throw out the records, you throw out history. You just know that something crazy is going to happen. And that's what's going to happen in this game, and I cannot wait for it. I hope Daniel's wrong about the final score, but with that being said, it's going to be great. And, man, I could have talked to him for another 7 hours.
Yep. My thought to this game goes Kenny Pickett and George Pickens in their first Baltimore game. It's our recently, since the bye week, that's our leading receiver and our quarterback. That's going to be a big factor in this game, is how these young guys handle their very first Ravens game. And especially, I really want to see George Pickens in this game and how he embraces this rivalry, because he seems like a guy who would start some stuff. He seems like a guy that could give us a little throwback to the old days, where it was a little chippy and a little dirty, and that's the way the football was played. So that's what's exciting to me. Brian, before we go, I'm going to get your prediction for the game, and then I'll give mine, and then we'll end the show.
So I already started to write this down in my bold and bizarre predictions, which are I haven't gotten to the ridiculous yet, but I gave the Steelers the win, but I gave them only 2 touchdowns and 4 field goals from, and this is Shannon's joke, Shannon's nickname, and I'm going to take it. I don't know if you know this, but Matthew, all right. So that is Shannon's. Since Shannon's not on, I'm going to steal his thunder. I'm going to steal his nickname. I think that's great. 4 field goals from Matthew. I think they win this game 26-23.
You're going a little higher scoring. I know he was going a little lower scoring, but I'm kind of on your side. I think the offenses for this team are going to really push it, and I'm going to go with 24 I Bleav is what I had figured out. 24-17. I think we see the Steelers really control this game on the ground. I think they found that recipe last week in Atlanta. I think they roll with it, and we see this game get pulled away at the end when we force Tyler Huntley to throw the ball a lot.
And I think that would be a great recipe. I would love to see it. But what we think and what happens, I'm not saying that the Ravens win. I'm not saying the Steelers win. I just know that you're going to be, at the end of the game, you're just going to be dropping your jaw like we did last year in December when Harbs is going for it on the goal line, 2-point conversion, just stuff like that. You just throw everything out. Like a Gorilla Monsoon used to say, batten down the hatches.
Absolutely. All right, Brian, anything you have that you want to tell people about to look out for on the site, on the podcast? Go ahead and plug all that.
I'm the podcast producer, so I'm going to plug everything. If you are missing some of these shows, if you're missing what Ian's talking about, then you're missing some great Twitter talk. If you are missing the cutting room floor with Geoffrey Benedict, which is you, I know it was a couple days ago, but if you're missing this, you're missing some film room on audio. And when we first talked about putting that show on, people thought we were crazy. Jeff's like, I don't know how this is going to work. Not Geoff Hartman. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm willing to listen. And now it's like, it's one of our flagship shows. If you are missing Kevin T. Smith and anything that he says, then you are missing a clinic. And I do a show with him, and it's almost a shame to have my name on that show because it is the Kevin Thatcher Smith show. Here we go, the Steelers show, the pregame show. I just sit back. You can't see me because it's on audio. I sit back like this, and I just listen to the guy because he can just go, and he's a coach, and he explains stuff that we just don't know. I mean, I learned so much tonight. It was great listening to Daniel Wilcox, a guy who played the game, and there was some technical talk there, and it was absolutely great. So many great shows. We're going to have the preview tomorrow night. I'm doing the Tankers guide for you, just to let you, for those that are holding out, saying they still want that top pick, letting you know what needs to happen. If you're rooting that way, I'm like, I think it's time to stop rooting that way, but I'm going to keep writing for you because, hey, I got a quota.
All right, Brian. As for me, I have the Dave Schofield, and I have the Vertex coming out. That should be out tomorrow morning, as long as we get all our paperwork filed, whatever. But that's going to be about the Steelers' run defense last week, where the flaws were, where they were attacked, and what they need to shore up for this matchup against Baltimore. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Other than that, make sure you're, as Brian said, make sure you're tuning into all of our podcasts on the Behind the Steel Curtain Radio here on YouTube and Facebook, and also anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And click over to BehindTheSteelCurtain.com to stay up to date on all the stuff going on with the Pittsburgh Steelers. For everyone in the live chat, thank you for participating. We love reading your comments. We love the interaction. Everyone listening at home, thank you so much for listening. As always, have a great week, and let's go Steelers.